What are we going to talk about today?
Well, September, man, we're going to talk about rapport. Rapport is the French word, but we're not speaking French today, so we'll use the English version, which is rapport. Now, rapport is a sense of connectedness where people like you, they feel involved with you, they want to be in your presence. It is the glue that holds hypnosis together, too, when we do hypnotic trance work. But rapport applies in every area of life. Now, realize people typically like people who seem similar to them. You know, people hang out with people who have the same interests, do the same things, play the same sports. To a large degree, there's got to be an overlap. So how do we create this artificially? There's a number of ways of seeming similar to the other person. And when we apply these carefully and not in a heavy-handed manner, we build bridges to people. And the aim of this is not to dominate or control people, but so those bridges become long-term friendships and relationships. That's way, way better than just getting the goods on someone because you seem similar to them. So let's start with this. People like those who seem similar to them.
Yes.
So what are the techniques we can use? One of the first ones is offering back their own language. Now, what does that mean? It's real simple. If someone comes up to you at work and they say something like, oh, I'm just, I've been feeling a little sad lately. My dog's been sick and I've just been very sad. And then you try to be a helpful person and say, that's really terrible. I didn't know you were completely depressed. No, they never said they were depressed. Right. So if you say that to them, I'm not depressed. That's a clinical diagnosis. Instead, you say to them, I understand you've been feeling very sad. That's too bad. Use their exact words. If someone says, oh, I just want to get out of this place, don't say, I understand you want to leave early. No, say, I don't want to leave early. What are you talking about? I want to quit this job. Yeah. So you say to them, leave this place. Just use a few of the words and say it back to them and nod while you say it. It makes the other person feel listened to. This is the antithesis of what I think is idiotic, this active listening thing, which I've seen almost destroy a marriage, where the man is told to rephrase what his wife says in this meeting. So she says, I feel like you're not listening to me at all. And the guy goes, okay, rephrase. And he said, you think that I'm not around very often. And she said, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Don't hear the person. Say their exact words without interpretation.
Yeah. Now, what's really interesting about this is the Dr. David Grove and Judy Reese, when she wrote the book for him, Clean Language, the whole point about this, and he even said, you never paraphrase. And that's because we all have our own interpretations of very specific words, like nominalizations, which are words that are nouns that you can't put into an object, like a wheelbarrow. Like you can't you can put a phone into a wheelbarrow or a spaceship, granted as long as the wheelbarrow is big enough, but you can't put words like love or depression or sadness.
Right.
And so what ends up happening is when we paraphrase, when we put our own phrasing,
spin on it,
we actually muddy the waters because their word, like sad, for example, might be completely different to them than it is to you.
Right.
Sad to them might be they are, weeping and sobbing, whereas sad to you might just be, oh, I just feel a little blue. So instead of adding your own spin, as Mike said, it's so much easier to just say exactly what they told you, because then it sounds like you're listening to them.
And you are.
And you are. So that will just increase their rapport because now they feel like they can trust you. They feel heard. They feel acknowledged. And that is one of the biggest bridges that anybody could ever build.
Thank you, Ken. That was well put.
Thank you.
Now let's go on to matching and mirroring. This is really, really cool. If someone is sitting opposite you, very subtly mirror their body language. So if they're leaning in to talk to you, you don't want to be back like Jack the frickin' back leaner in your chair, just leaning in the leanery like a frickin' idiot. You want to mirror what they're doing. If they lean in, you lean in. This is something called proxemics too. Proxemics are how close you get to another person when you feel comfortable. And Edward T. Hall wrote about this extensively. The key is let the other person choose the proxemics. Some people get way too close. Now we're forced into, I see you matching my body language in my periphery. So you see that if you're in an elevator, people are forced into a tight proxemic, which makes them feel awkward because typically only people we're intimate with get really close to us. So as soon as you're out of the elevator, everybody splits up. So if you're talking to someone and you step forward while you're talking to them and they take a step back, you violated their proxemics. Let them determine the distance with which you interact with the other person.
Yeah, I agree with that. Another another great one is the idea of genuine compliments with a reason.
That's a terrific one. Yeah. So you don't just say, oh, you look really good. Oh, you're really smart. No, give a reason that is legitimate. A genuine compliment is not flattery. And I do this all the time because I find it really smooths people's lives. It makes them feel better. If someone's got a copy of War and Peace and they're on the bus and you strike up a conversation, you can say, that's a pretty advanced book. Not many people will read something at that level of language. That you should be, you're probably quite a serious reader. And they'll, yes, I am, because you've acknowledged that they're taking on a work of literature and not Dick meets Jane, which is a completely different thing. Here comes Spot. Ha, ha, ha. Well, it was a pretty good book when I was 5 years old, but not so much now. So yeah, be careful with that sort of thing. Make sure if you give a compliment, there's a reason for it. Provide the reason, and it'll hit home and the person will like it. Now let's talk about the smiling and the eyebrow flash.
Oh, yeah. So when you first see somebody, it is absolutely key that you smile first and then lift your eyebrows, because we do that naturally anyways when we're glad to see somebody, like, oh, hi. So just by doing it intentionally, you're already giving them the signal of like, oh, we're in the same tribe.
This is actually, he's correct. This is a tribal thing. This occurs with every kind of primate on Earth. And so you meet someone, if I see someone across a crowded room, you recognize each other, or that's the person you're supposed to meet, you'll both eyebrow flash automatically. So use that because it says we are from the same tribe. Now let's bring in another one here. This is John Grinder, who I trained with a couple of times. Brilliant guy, co-founder of NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. He said, you don't have to match every body language, all their gestures, offer back all their language, breathe in sync with the other person. All of these things will work. But he said the ultimate rapport secret, and I'm paraphrasing him here because I can't remember the exact wording, is you simply pretend the other person is the most fascinating and important person you have ever met in your life, and maintain that feeling, that emotion, that idea that they're crucially important and really interesting. And guess what happens? The mirror neurons in your brain will do the rest, and you will build a powerful rapport with them. Now, what if you have to break rapport at some point? And this is something that CEOs will do. It's very, very clever. They have a meeting in their own office. And when the meeting is over, all they do is stand up. That's it. He stands up and it says the meeting's over. And everyone goes, oh, okay, I guess we're out of here now. You haven't said anything. You've just broken all the postural shifts and that you've been doing. You just disconnected by simply standing up. And that can get someone out of your office if you need to. Realize this stuff is ridiculously powerful. Using the person's name is a great one too that will work. When you say the other person's name, it's the most beautiful sound in the world to them. Make sure you got their name right. Don't call a person Dave if his name's Carl, because you will break any rapport you already had.
Yes.
But don't overdo it. Well, Dave, I see, Dave, that while you're sitting there, you're listening to me, Dave. If you keep saying their name, they'll know what you're doing and it'll blow rapport out of the water. It will not be a good thing. But mirroring the posture, mirroring the attitude is very powerful. I'll give you a real world example. Years ago, I went with two of my agents when I was a corporate speaker, making ridiculous amounts of money, just talking like I'm doing right now. It was a lot of fun. Now, having said that, I was at a meeting for a company called Jumbo Video that is now extinct because nobody rents video cassettes anymore. What a surprise. And the meeting, the head honcho was this guy. He was Scottish. This was in Canada. We went to the meeting in the boardroom, me and my two agents, Leandra and Brent. And we're sitting in the table there. And the head honcho comes in. He's got jeans on. He's relaxed. All his yes men are freaked out by this guy. He's very powerful. They're all sitting like this. And my agents are sitting very powerful. And I sat near him and I slumped like he did. My leg is out in the aisle. I'm just leaning over to the side, poor posture, exactly like him. And I could see my agents going, sit up, sit up, sit up. I talked like he did. I didn't mimic his Scottish accent, but I spoke the rate he spoke. I delayed before I answered the same way he did. He'd take a couple of seconds to think. The meeting ends. He said, right, I'm hiring this guy. That was it. He hired me because I seemed like him. These techniques will work. When you build rapport, you are sending a message that you are similar to the other person, and the sky is the limit how far you can carry this, but use it to build relationships, not just bridges.
You know
Any
what?
final thing?
Yeah. What's super interesting is that you mentioned the word jumbo, and when I was on the road, I went through this town in Ohio called Jumbo.
Shut up.
And
Are you serious?
it was a town called Jumbo, Ohio, and it had one stop sign.
Is it out
and
of business now, like Jumbo
It was
Video?
it was like 15 people
Yeah.
lived there. It was incredible. What's that have to do with rapport? Absolutely nothing. I just want to tell the story. Last thing is, when it comes to building rapport, you can do it by asking questions. Now, here's why. Because people love to talk about themselves, right?
Yes.
Have you ever met Chris? Just kidding. But really, though, people love to talk about themselves. And what's really interesting is that if somebody talks about themselves and you're digging information out of them by asking really good questions, they'll feel like you're interested in them. So they'll feel
Very
like, oh
good.
my gosh, like this person likes me, I must like them. Boom, you open the door by asking great questions.
Very good, very strong.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, learn a couple of these things. Sit the way the other person's sitting. Let them choose the proxemics. Remember to use their name. Use the eyebrow flash. Pick a few of these and just make them habitual. And you'll discover very, very quickly you can build rapport with just about anybody.
And don't go to Jumbo, Ohio. So thanks again, and good night!